Hi everyone, this is Robin, and I'm back for day 14 of Ethony's 31 Days of Tarot Challenge. And I'm not going to be doing very many more of these videos for the Tarot Challenge because the questions don't appeal to me really. I'll pick and choose what I want to answer. And you'll have to excuse me walking around a bit because I feel like I need to stim while I'm talking right now. So I'm just going to walk around and pace like I do whenever I'm thinking. Now, the question 14 is, what forms of divination do you use? What are your favorite forms of divination other than tarot and oracle? Now, I mostly use tarot and oracle cards, but my other favorite methods of divination include listening to the radio, and kind of turning on the radio at random points while I'm driving to see if any particular songs or messages come up. And whenever I do that, I find that it's maybe not the first song that starts playing whenever I turn it on, but the next song will be like highly attuned to the energy that I have, to my energy in that moment. And I find that often as I'm driving and even if I kind of tune it out and then come back to listening, there will be like energetic messages in the songs, in the lyrics, or just in the vibe itself of the song. That maybe it's referencing some kind of theme in my life, or maybe a particular lyric will catch my attention and I'll relate it to something in my life. And yeah, so I also communicated with deities a lot that way, where I would be wondering to myself about kind of the nature of a relationship, I guess, as a deity consort. I had that relationship anxiety, and so I would be like, what if they don't like me anymore? Or like, how about that? I know that you liked me like 2 seconds ago, but what about now? Especially whenever I was in a bad mood, and I didn't have the self-soothing down, the self-soothing mechanisms down for myself yet, and so I was just like, I'm gonna listen to the radio because I'm anxiety all over the place, and I just need some calming, good music right now. And like, yeah, there's a plethora of people like to sing about love, apparently, and the absence of love, and how they want love, and how they found love in a hopeless place. It's a very popular topic. So I don't know. I found it very comforting whenever I was like, but do my deities still love me? But am I lovable? And I'd listen to the radio and then it'd be like, oh, yeah, you totally are. Or like, if I really needed a shake that day to be like, come on, snap out of it. I'd get a song about how you need to get over this thing. Like, come on, brave it up here a bit. So, and that was stabilizing as well. Yeah, so radio songs I like a lot. And what else? Other forms of divination I've done for a while. I've done the like flipping through pages of books in order to see what comes up. Sometimes it's just a word in response, or sometimes it's a paragraph or a page. And some books seem better suited to that than others, at least at particular moments. some of them seem better suited to that than others, and I don't know, it just depends on what you're aligning to at the time. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about as far as divination was God phone. So I talked a little bit about God phone in my response to Kellyanne Maddox's Housework Ramble video, and God phone is a term that I've seen on Tumblr. I've not seen a lot of other places. I've seen on some on WordPress, but like God phone is basically a term in the online, at least pagan community, the larger the larger pagan community, and it references being able to casually talk to deities just as an interactive thing on a daily basis. Now, that doesn't mean that you always get clear messages, and it doesn't mean that you can always access this ability, nor does it mean that it always comes to you in the same exact way. It's just a casual term for a form of casual channeling. So, what I found that really helps with developing God phone or casual channeling is basically um, opening yourself up to possibilities of like taking note, being aware of your body, of your emotional states, of your mental processes and how you're thinking. And you don't have to over analyze it and like have an identity crisis every time, but like in fact that might hinder it a little bit. Normally whenever I'm having an identity crisis, it is far more difficult to receive this kind of uh, divination or messaging. And it's just it helps to be in a good mood. It helps to be open to whatever you're hearing or whatever you're feeling, and however your intuition speaks to you. Just like really coming at it from a place of calm and curiosity. Like, I noticed this thought in me that I just had, and I'm not sure where it came from. But that's interesting. I wonder if I kind of uh, thought back at this, or if I kind of like interfaced with this thought a little bit, or this feeling. What I wonder how that would go. It's sort of like if you've ever done with tarot, if you've ever taken a particular card that like you've taken a particular card and then you've used it to visualize a gateway where you've pathworked and entered into the scene in the card. It's kind of like that, where characters can talk back at you and they sort of become infused with their own life, and then they can give you their insight into whatever you're asking or whatever reason that you're trying to delve into the card more. So it's kind of like that, and it requires a certain awareness of yourself and your intuitive preferences or abilities. So in channeling, there's people talk about like channeling and psychic abilities. There's different ways to access information. There's clairvoyance where you see things. There's clairaudience where you hear them. Clairsentience where you feel them, or clairtangency where you touch feel them, and claircognizance where you just know stuff. And yeah, it just takes time, and it takes practice, and it takes discernment to be able to differentiate what are my normal thought processes and my normal emotional processes, and what feels like it's coming from somewhere else. like telepathically or empathically. So, but the really helpful thing is to get out of your own way in a lot of cases. So, whenever I first started developing God phone or all of the clair senses, um, I found that I was continuously worried about privacy. um, Angels and deities start bothering you in the bathroom, and you're like, I'm busy. God, I'm busy. um, and, they don't care, so they just laugh and they like, oh, you're funny. And then you have to kind of like, uh, you can you can develop like you can try to develop boundaries about it, but like it's a really kind of you're human. Like they're separate from you, but they're not. It's like it's also in order to develop this ability, you kind of have to get over the idea of rigidly delineating what is you and what is source or what is other, spirits or what is deities. Sometimes you can have a sense that it is someone else, mostly. But even then, usually it is channeled through you, and so it is affected by your energy. And that's also why it's affected by your mood and your mindset at the time. Now, but sometimes your human boundaries or your human ideas of um, how to relate to people don't apply. Or if you try to really rigidly make them apply or make it make sense to you, you're going to run into some blocks. You're going to run into some mental and emotional blocks that then you have to get good with yourself about, what is more, what what do you really need? What is really what you're looking for? And is it worth the sacrifices for it? Yes or no. So, or maybe you can find some sort of compromise. But I found that in order to get really clear, in order to get really clear with yourself and then also to receive clearer messages, it takes a lot of uh, patience and just the ability to kind of let go and adapt and be kind to yourself, because the ego mind will constantly be trying to like say that you're wrong or that you're misinterpreting or that, and it's like, or that this entire process is so silly and cannot be humanly possible. And I know for me, in developing that way, I had to go through a lot of coming across that block or that barrier, and then having to think, well, what if I am wrong? What if I am? So what? Like, is this thought? Is this talking to a deity? If it's real in the capital R real sense, does it matter to anyone? Is it hurting anyone? Is it hurting me? And no, not in most cases, no. Like, if you really um your brain creates a lot of rules to protect you from everything that it fears, and it's to try and keep you safe, and to and part of that is to try to make you uh, feel the pressure of fitting into society and like fitting into the commonly accepted reality. um, it tries to pressure you to fit into consensus reality, as Kellyanne Maddox calls it, consensus reality. Um, but whenever you really like go internally, you go inside of yourself and you think, and you ask yourself, your still internal self, and you say, is this helping me? Is this good for me? Or is this hurting me? You know, is there something valuable in this? And if the answer is yes, then frankly, who cares if it's real in terms of consensus reality? Like, other people um, have very different experiences with deities, particular deities, than I do. And does that mean that they're not real? Like, no, of course not. It's happening. You are experiencing it, and you are emotionally reacting to it, and you are mentally reacting to it, and that makes it completely, absolutely real. You know, there's that Harry Potter quote, um, where Dumbledore says something like, "Well," or Harry is like, "Well, how do I know that this is real? Or is this all in my? What if this is all in my mind?" And Dumbledore says something like, "Well, of course it's all in your mind, Harry, but why would that make it not real?" Or uh, I forget the exact quote. I haven't read that book or seen that movie in a long, long time. But yeah, it's like, well, why would that make it less real that it was in your mind? I mean, everybody experiences things through the lens of the sensory input that they are receiving through their brains, through their subtle bodies, or whatever. You know, it's all filtered through that. So, why would it not be real? And why would it not be able to influence you in astounding, sometimes like miraculous or wonderful, expansive ways that help you grow? So, yeah. So, anyway, so God phone is another way that I divine without tarot. And as I mentioned in the Loki Dream Part 2 video, um, there's multiple facets to reality and experiences. And I think that especially when communicating with incorporeal beings, in my experience, it is heavily, heavily filtered through what you are capable of understanding or capable of receiving in a message at the time. It's like they could be sending you this entire message, but you right now, your capability, you can only receive a tiny part of it. Well, then that tiny part of it is what you see. And then if they send the same energy but someone else has um, a different language pack installed, or like a different mindset, a different way to translate that same energy, and then they receive this other experience or this other message, and it helps them in this other way. Um, and also, I think that's why whenever you're in a bad mood, or whenever you're not feeling your best, um, you can receive an energy in a way that it frightens you. You can receive an energy in a way that it's scary or even harmful to you. Like, um, around Tumblr, there's this constant like back and forth about like deities are always loving and they always mean the best for you. And then there's this response of, but deities can do things that hurt you as well. And they can not always have your best interest at heart. And sometimes this deity is mean to me, or whatever. And I think it's partially to do with that, like, you will receive what you most need at the time. And what you most need at the time may not be what you want to receive. It may not be pleasant. It may not be comfortable. It may even feel devastating. And I've definitely been through that too. You know, in a lot of my experiences with a particular deity, you know, I went through these levels of, like, first I was afraid of them, and then I wasn't sure about them, and then I was like, oh no, you're definitely full of shit. And then later it was like, oh, you actually have something interesting about that. And then later I was like, wow, you're really doing something actually incredible. And it's a very nuanced thing, and I think it really is situation dependent. But I think that incorporeal beings that, like, send out love, or like love, for example, if they send out love to you, but you're not capable of receiving it in the way that they're sending it, that energy will come and interact with your energy body, or your mindsets, yourself, and it will come to you in a way that you can understand it. Whether that way that you can understand it is pleasant or not, or is it's like it's like whenever you've been like abused all of your life, okay, you cannot immediately accept you cannot often immediately accept the, like, complete trust and compassion of, or love or support of, people that have every intention to help you. Sometimes you know, in that trauma mindset, or in that paranoia mindset, it's like, but everybody is out to get me because experience has told me so. And you know, you see things very differently. You see things very differently than how other people are intending. And it doesn't mean that their intent is more important than how you're feeling. It just means that their way of approaching you and your way of interacting are not compatible. So, like, what am I saying? I know that what was healing to me at a different stage of my trauma processing, was, like, quote unquote, like, lower vibrational or more negative energies, or, like, whatever. But it was healing. It was generally healing and helpful to me at the time. And it wasn't until I moved to a different place in my trauma healing that I became more and more able to open myself to more ways of loving, and more ways of accepting love, and accepting help, and trusting, and faith. And it's not a contest. It just has to do with what are you needing, and what are you capable of receiving at the time. And if something is uncomfortable for you at the time, and if something is hurting you, it is okay to say that. You know, even if it's coming from the ultimate love and light of the universe, you know, even if it's coming from that, it is okay to say that this is how I am right now, and this is how I'm experiencing this. So Anyway, that was a long. I'm not going to apologize. Anyway, I'm all right. All right. So, divination. So, yeah, radio, book flipping, synchronistic signs in the environment, and God phone or casual channeling. So that I think wraps it up for the video. I know I talked about a really like complex or broad thing that maybe I didn't articulate very well because I was just kind of riffing. But if you have any questions or if you have any comments, feel free to put them in the comment section below, and I'll try to get to as many as I can. And if you liked the video or if you want to hear more, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you want to see more of my cat, let me know. Or if you think he's a nuisance, like I do, you can let me know that too. So, thank you for watching, and this has been Robin.